Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. We are getting closer to getting justice for little Harmony, and I, for one, am looking forward to it. Unfortunately, they haven't found her remains. So again, I want to point out at the bottom of the screen, I do have the scrolling tip line. So if you have any tips in her case, like maybe where her remains might be or anything, please call the tip line at 603-932-8997. And you can always be anonymous. We just need tips. We would like to not only have justice for Harmony, but really find her and give her a proper burial and rest. With that said, there's been a few things going on before the trial initiates in February. Again, we have jury selection set to begin on February 6th. At this point, there's been a few motions going back and forth, as well as the witness lists coming out. State has like 200 potential witnesses. They've amended it like 2 or 3 times. Like, we'll kind of go through parts of it. Their last amended list, it looks like from online, is on the 2nd, but as we know, that could change anytime with the trial impending. There is, at this point, the defense has had a couple things they're hoping to get thrown out before the trial starts. As far as witnesses are concerned, the defense has filed a motion to prevent any conversations between Teardrop Adam Montgomery and his estranged wife, Kayla Montgomery, stepmeth, from being entered as evidence. They're citing marital privilege. See, and as we know, Kayla is a key witness in this case, as she was for the gun trial. So, the state's going to be fighting tooth and nail to get her in there, and she's the reason he's being charged with second-degree murder, as we read in his charging document, in his charging papers. His attorneys point to the New Hampshire Rule of Evidence 504, which establishes a, quote, husband and wife privilege, unquote, and provides that, quote, neither side shall be allowed to testify against the other as to any statement, conversation, letter, or other communication, unquote. Yeah. So I think that's going to fall on some deaf ears. But like I said, the state's going to fight tooth and nail in this. They did file a response, a partial objection to this motion. So this is the State of New Hampshire Superior Court. This was filed again, looks like on 1/2, so a lot were filed right after the new year in this case. And of course it lists the case number up top there. State's partial objection to defendant's motion in limine. Allegations of prior or subsequent bad acts, because they also want to get that thrown out as well. So they're trying to get so much thrown out because, man, Adam's just a bad dude. I mean, and that's putting it lightly. So they want to get his prior bad acts thrown out, his conduct at trial. It states in here in this motion, and it states the admissibility of evidence regarding other crimes, wrongs, or acts as governed by the rule. So this is the state coming back and stating that, hey, this is not okay, and it's saying why that this can be put in. It goes on to state Rule 404B prohibits the use of such evidence as so-called propensity, and I know I'm saying that wrong, guys. Evidence, however, evidence of other crimes, wrongs, or acts may be admissible if 1. The evidence is relevant for a purpose other than proving the actor's character or deposition. 2. There is clear proof that the other acts occurred and the person in question committed them. And 3. The prohibitive value of evidence is not subsequently outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice. The New Hampshire Supreme Court has made a distinction between 2 types of other crimes, wrongs, or acts intrinsic and extrinsic, State versus Wells. It goes through that case. Other act evidence is intrinsic and therefore not subject to Rule 404B when the evidence of the other act and the evidence of the crime charge are extratemporally. See, I can't even say this stuff back, Tell you what, legalese is real, guys. Intertwined. And so, it goes on to say, typically, intrinsic other act evidence is a prelude to the charged offense and is directly prohibitive of the charged offense, arises from the same events as charged offense, forms an integral part of a witness's testimony, or completes the story of the charged offense. Again, I'm not an attorney and I don't play one on TV or on the YouTube streets, but it seems like they're stating that it doesn't apply what the defense is trying to go after because, well, it relates to these charges. And then they go through that. I will link to this in case you want to read the full motion response, the partial response from the state. And they're also arguing about the allegations of domestic violence that was perpetrated upon Kayla Montgomery, which, as we know, she is the key witness in this case. So they're stating, with respect to the motion to preclude allegations of domestic violence perpetrated upon Kayla Montgomery, hereby known as Kayla, by the defendant, the state objects. Obviously. On October 26, 2022, the defendant was charged with, among other things, tampering with witnesses and informants pursuant to RSA 6415. Looks like IA tampering. And they mention a complaint. Yeah, because remember, he was trying to make her not talk. And, it took her a while, but she finally talked. Both the initial complaint and the indictment allege that the defendant purposely attempted to induce or otherwise cause Kayla to testify or inform falsely, and he did so believing that an official proceeding or investigation was pending or about to be instituted. The charges relate to conduct that occurred between December 7th, 2019 and January 4th, 2022. As such, the allegations of domestic violence perpetrated by the defendant upon Kayla in the charged conduct supporting the tampering charge. Because it's a charged conduct, is not subject to analysis under the Rule 404B. So this is going through more of that, stating that it basically doesn't apply, it looks like, to that. And Kayla has proffered evidence because she has this proffer, which I know we're all not happy with because I'm completely unhappy with the proffer, where she gets away with everything but murder, basically. She's got proffered evidence which formed the basis of the defendant's charge of tampering. The state anticipates that Kayla will testify that she provided false statements due to abuse, threats, and conditioning she suffered at the hands of the defendant, and the fear he instilled in her that she should report his criminal acts, that he would harm her. So Kayla didn't say anything because she was afraid that Adam was going to go after her and harm her, which we all know what he did to Harmony. So yeah, that's definitely a completely believable. On March 16th, 2023, Kayla provided significant information on the casual relationship between the defendant's fear that she report him for murdering Harmony Montgomery and the abuse he perpetrated on her. Kayla said the abuse occurred consequently, like pretty much every day, and that's a quote from her. And they attach an exhibit, it looks like, Kayla Montgomery's March 16th proffer, and on page 44. During her proffer, Kayla described how for almost a year, the defendant would assault her daily, threaten her, and restrict her movements, all while accusing her of telling on him. During her proffer, Kayla was asked if the defendant ever hit or punched her after accusing her of telling on him. Kayla responded that, yeah, a lot of times. I can't even count. And I would try to go to bed and he'd be like calling my name and the kids would be sleeping. And then I'd be like, dude, I'm going to bed. And he'd be like, come on, sit out here with me. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like mentioning the living room because he was sitting out in the living room and he just kept like repeating himself. I didn't want him to wake up the kids, so I would go sit out there with him and then he would just keep running his mouth. Like, oh, I know you're doing this. I know you're telling. I know you're cheating on me. I know you're doing all these things that I wasn't doing. Yeah, it sounds like he was pretty nervous because Kayla is pretty much the one big threat to Adam. Let's be honest. She's the biggest threat. Kayla was asked if the defendant would ever threaten her after accusing her of telling on him. Kayla stated, quote, that he would. He hurt me. He tried. He hurt me like a few times, and because he was being crazy, and I just remember that. And I would like try to leave, and I'd be like, I'm leaving. He'd be like, okay. And then I go to leave, and he doesn't let me leave. It's like it goes on to state on December 22nd, 2023, Kayla reported that following Harmony's murder, she was afraid of the defendant. She reported still living in fear of the defendant. She said that following Harmony's murder, the defendant assaulted her regularly and accused her of reporting him for murdering Harmony. Kayla said that she was able to get a protective order and to flee from the defendant. She said that when she left him and hid in her neighbor's apartment, she thought the defendant would kill their neighbor to get to her and then kill her. She said that following Harmony's murder, the defendant became increasingly paranoid, thinking that she would report him. She said the defendant was paranoid because of what he did to Harmony and the fear he had of being caught. He believed the police were aware of what he did to Harmony and were actively engaged in surveillance tactics, including wiretaps and surreptitiously, yes, I know I'm saying that wrong, guys, installing hidden listening devices in their home. I guess secretly installing those. Well, so he's paranoid. Adam was paranoid as hell. He's got this outward, like, tough guy. And we know he's disgusting, he's awful, and he killed his daughter. So I think he's definitely a scary dude. But he's also, he also likes to boost, himself up. Kayla reported that after the defendant would hurt her, he would feel bad and apologize. She said, that on one occasion, the defendant hit her so hard that she could not see. Can you imagine if he did that to her? How horrible it was when he hit Harmony. Kayla said that several times after the defendant would accuse her of reporting him, she would tell him if she was reporting him because she thought that perhaps he would not hurt her. She said that after she got away from the defendant and in the time that followed before her arrest, she was living in fear of the defendant. Fear the defendant would kill her to further cover up what he had done. She said that after she left him, she did not know where he was, but she knew that what he was capable of. She said the consistent assaults were due to his fear that she was working with the police and reporting him for what he did to Harmony. Kayla reported that the defendant assaulted her hundreds of times after he murdered Harmony. She said that he threatened her not to report him, and because of the defendant's constant threats and assaults, she understood that if she reported the defendant, he would kill her. I'm not a fan of Kayla. I'm not a fan of her at all. But, for Kayla to be legitimately fearful, yeah. I mean, he's not nicknamed Teardrop for nothing, guys. He doesn't have that tattoo on his face for nothing. The state anticipates that at trial, witnesses will corroborate Kayla's statements, regarding the tampering charge and the fear that she had of the defendant. Just one example, Roseanne Smith, a driver for Pelican Transportation, transported Kayla and the defendant to their appointments at the methadone clinic. She began driving for them on December 11th, 2019, just 4 days after the defendant murdered Harmony. Mrs. Smith told officers that Kayla is scared of Adam. That is why she was tight-lipped. Mrs. Smith reported she saw the defendant abuse Kayla. She stated that on one occasion, while the Montgomery family lived at their apartment on Union Street, the defendant broke Kayla's cell phone. Roseanne said that when she snuck Kayla her own cell phone, the defendant approached Kayla, twisted the phone from her hand, and told Mrs. Smith that he would kill her if she gave that phone to his wife. Yeah, he's a real good guy, isn't he? He needs to be locked up and throw away the key. Lock up and throw away the key, Adam. That's all we want. Put you in a deep, dark hole. The anticipated testimony of Kayla, Mrs. Smith, and other corroborative evidence is not other acts evidence that would be covered by Rule 404B of the New Hampshire Rules of Evidence, but instead the testimony relates to direct evidence that the defendant tampered with Kayla by threatening her, abusing her, and conditioning her in an attempt to induce her to testify or inform falsely, which is in turn direct evidence of the conduct compromising one of the charges the defendant is currently facing. Therefore, such evidence should not be precluded. I agree. He did all this stuff because he's like, dude, if anybody tells that what I did to Harmony, I'm screwed. And he knew as soon as Kayla talked, she did that proffer, he knew he's screwed. And you know what? His team and everything are doing everything they can to try to knock her from talking, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work because she is a big witness, and unfortunately she doesn't know where the remains went, where he put the remains, which again, I don't think he's ever going to tell us, guys. That's why I really hope someone out there somewhere has that tip that we need, because I would really love to see that baby girl, whatever remains of her, and I don't want to think about, how horrible that it might be at this point. Whatever remains of her, though, I really believe she deserves to be put to rest in the right way. She really does. And Adam's not going to help in any way making that possible. And they go on to talk about the allegations of neglect and assaults on Harmony Montogomery, evidence of neglect and assault with respect to the motion to preclude allegations of neglect in caring for Harmony Montogomery and any assaults or assaultive behavior against Harmony other than the charged conduct. The state objects in part. The state seeks to introduce this evidence as intrinsic other acts evidence that is not subject to Rule 404B. Specifically, the state anticipates that multiple witnesses will testify that in the months and weeks prior to Harmony's death, she appeared to be malnourished and covered in bruises. Yeah, he beat the crap out of her. He had her cleaning the floor with a toothbrush and cleaning the toilet in the bathroom. I mean, God knows what else that poor little girl had to go through. Horrible. One witness will testify that Harmony weighed just 35 pounds in the months prior to her murder. Witnesses will testify that on November 29, 2019, the Montgomery family was involved in a traffic accident, which officers responded to, during which the defendant covered Harmony with a blanket so that her bruises would not be seen by responding officers. Yeah, he can't handle someone seeing how awful of an animal he is. Witnesses will testify that Harmony's bruises came from the defendant hitting her after she experienced incontinence in the family car, a partial impetus for his attack on the day of her death. The defendant's act of concealing Harmony to hide her injuries is significant in that it explains why officers did not observe her with the family a week prior to her murder. It also narrows the timeline of when Harmony was murdered and combats the defendant's claims that he returned Harmony to her mother, Crystal Surrey, the day before Thanksgiving in 2019. Additionally, Harmony's physical frailty at the time of her murder shows the defendant's intent, that he acted recklessly and with extreme indifference when he murdered Harmony. Evidence of Harmony's physical condition prior to her murder is directly prohibitive of the defendant's intent, knowledge, and extreme indifference to the value of Harmony's life. These facts form an integral part of the testimony of various anticipated witnesses, which completes the story of the various charged offenses in the instant case. This evidence is at times part of the charged offenses and as a whole inextricably intertwined with the facts and circumstances of the charged offenses. Therefore, such evidence would be intrinsic other acts evidence not subject to Rule 404B. I completely agree. Again, it goes on for some more. If you see at the top, there's 89 pages here. And I'm not going to go through all that. But again, I'll link to it if you want to read the entire motion. And that's the basic what they're going for. And I really hope that their argument that this should be thrown out is the defense's, argument that they need to throw out his prior acts is just like, yeah, no, Adam. You're already a career criminal. You're just sentenced. You were just found guilty and sentenced for being a career criminal. And now this. So, no, you have zero, as far as I'm concerned, he's got zero defense. He's an awful human being. And I even hate to call him a human being. That's why I prefer to call him an animal. And he doesn't want to be known in prison as hurting or killing his daughter because, gosh, as soon as they hear about that, if and when he's found guilty, and I believe he will be found guilty, I pray to God that he will be, he's going to be looked at a whole different way when he gets back to that prison. A whole different way. They don't like people who kill or hurt kids in jail, in prison. They don't like that behind bars. Right now, he thinks he's got some sort of respect from them, from his cellmates. That'll be gone. That'll be gone once you are found guilty of murdering your daughter, Adam. That will soon be gone. And the other motion I had yet to speak about is a motion that was actually filed at the end of December. And that has to do with his Home Depot purchases. We're speaking of Adam Montgomery, of course. This is from his defense team. They put a motion in liminem regarding the Home Depot purchases. Now comes Adam Montgomery by and through his public defenders, Carolyn L. Smith, Esquire, and James T. Brooks, Esquire. Yeah, that's a new partner. Remember, the previous partner got a new job, but Carolyn has been the defender he's had from his previous trial. And respectfully moves this honorable court to exclude evidence of a February 15th, 2020 purchase of pelletized limestone from the Home Depot in Hooksett in a February 26th, 2020 purchase of pelletized limestone, a metal cutting diamond blade, a fuel grinder, and a lithium-ion battery and charger from the Home Depot in Manchester. This motion is based on the New Hampshire Rules of Evidence 401, 402, and 403. So they are trying to get these purchases, which looks like they were trying to, as far as I could tell, trying to cover up Harmony Montgomery's death. What do you guys think? And then you have the state responding to that right after the new year. Now comes State of New Hampshire by and through its attorneys, the Office of the Attorney General, and opposes the defendant's motion to exclude evidence at trial. The defendant is not entitled to an order excluding evidence of Home Depot purchases from February 2020. The evidence of purchases from Home Depot is relevant because it is circumstantial evidence connecting the defendant to an ATM withdrawal and lime he purchased to further conceal and dispose of Harmony Montgomery's corpse. So that's another motion that it has yet to be heard, which I'm assuming will be heard. I don't know if they're going to do it before February 6th, but definitely beginning of February. That will be another motion that will be heard in court. And hopefully that'll also be the defendant's motion to get that tossed will also be thrown in the garbage. And then we finally got the state's amended witness list for trial. Again, this was, I think, also posted on 1-2. They did a lot of work right after the holidays in the new year. Again, there's like 200 people on here. I think it's like 79 civilians. And then the rest are law enforcement and businesses and what have you. If you kind of glance through it, some of the names don't ring a bell to me. But again, I will post a link to these in the information of the video. What I will tell you, number 20 is Crystal Saray, Harmony's mother, well, biological mother, the one who carried her. And, yeah, that's about all I have to say about Crystal Saray. And then you kind of get through it. Helen Montgomery, I believe that's another family member, because a lot of these are family members. You got Aaron Montgomery up here. And sadly, most of these family members did not care about Harmony. Not one of them did a damn thing. Even that uncle. The uncle, remember the uncle that went on the news? And then he's going, oh, well, I'm really broke and I could use some money. Remember he was standing out in the rain? If you guys don't remember, I'll do a video and show that. The guy is insane. And then, of course, you got Kayla, Kevin. I think his name is Kevin. I think that's him. Blanking at the moment. I could be wrong. And then you have Michael Montgomery. These are all, Montgomery family. Like I said, a lot of family members and friends or former friends. You got law enforcement, lots of Manchester PD and United States Marshal Service. In here, the FBI and expert witnesses. Of course, they've got DNA labs, New Hampshire State Police Forensic Laboratory, New Hampshire State Police Forensic Laboratory, and you got record keepers. Obviously, you got for the AT&T, Auto Collision, Dunkin' Donuts, where Kayla used to work, Econo Lodge, looks like there's Meta Bank, Manchester Comprehensive Treatment Center. I don't know if that's where they were getting their drug treatments or not. Department of Transportation for New Hampshire, T-Mobile, U-Haul Holding, and I don't know how much they're going to be. I'm hoping they might have some more information than we've heard, because remember, according to Kayla, Adam rented that U-Haul, and that's when he took Harmony's remains, and she never saw that Harmony's remains ever again. So it would be nice if they've got some more information on that front. But again, they've got like 200 witnesses on their list, and oddly enough, the defense at this time only has two witnesses on the defense list. The two witnesses right now that are on the defense list are Michael Haru, an inmate at the Hillsborough County House of Corrections, because I'm sure he's pretty credible. And the other is Michelle Rafferty in Massachusetts. According to WMUR, they don't know where her connection is to the case. And again, your guess is as good as mine, obviously, as well. I try to do a bit of research on her, and besides being out of Massachusetts, I have zero idea if she's a friend of Adam's or what the deal is with her. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. And then, of course, they mention they can call any of the state's growing or continually amended list of witnesses. And they're going to obviously interview Kayla pretty hard as well. Yeah. So I don't know, guys. I hope that these motions that the defense team has tried to throw at the court get tossed. Obviously, just because they were married, I think that's a bunch of crap. All that with his violence and all she knows, because again, she's like the biggest witness that the state has again, and all that violence that he did upon her and Harmony is very vital also to the case, and all this stuff with Home Depot is also very important. So I don't know, again, if we're going to have these motions heard before the jury on February 6th, or if it's going to be February 6th and they're going to hear those before they start jury selection. But if I hear that they're going to do it beforehand and get any updates, I will definitely let you all know. But that's kind of where the case is right now. And I am very, very much looking forward to justice for Harmony. That's what it's all about. Justice for Harmony. And I would love, again, for somebody to have a tip that leads to more information about where the hell Adam took her in that U-Haul. So if anyone out there knows, please call that tip line scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Put it out there if you guys want on your socials, please. We need to get all the justice we can for sweet Harmony. She really did not stand a chance with any of these people who were considered her family. And they really weren't her family, because nobody gave a crap about her. Nobody checked on her. Look, it took 2 years, and it took Jameson, her little brother, who has been adopted by 2 wonderful fathers, and he's got 2 other brothers now, to ask his adoptive fathers about his sister Harmony. Because remember, they wanted to adopt Harmony too, and they weren't able to because of Adam. So they reached out to Crystal, who all of a sudden, she decides to get a light up under her ass, and she decides to raise hell with the state and all that, and write a letter. And that's when we all heard that, Harmony hadn't been seen for like 2 years. She fell through the cracks, which should never happen. Again, none of her family checked on her. And if it wasn't for her little brother, who the hell knows if we would know right now? So I always say that he's a little hero in my book, and I know she's looking down on him and keeping a good eye on her little brother. Well, she's his angel up there. I really believe that. All right, guys, that's all I've got for this one. I hope you have a great rest of the day. And most of all, stay safe.